Hey everyone, and welcome back to Exposed, Scandalous Files of the Elite. I'm your host, Jim Chapman, and we are back with this part 2 of the Micah Miller case as part of our Exposed Investigate series. And the last time that I left you, Micah Miller had phoned 911 saying she was about to commit suicide and wanted her family to know where her body was located. And we're going to pick it up right there. So it was during that call that Micah Miller abruptly hung up the phone, but fortunately, prior to disconnecting, and as you heard, the 911 operator was able to hammer down a general location, which was the Lumber River State Park in Robeson County, North Carolina. Now, while it's nice that they had a general location in Lumber River State Park, it is of some help, but not a great help. Lumber River State Park is vast at 13,659 acres, and the park spans 115 miles along what is known as the Lumber River. So imagine if you're dispatched to go check on this young woman who just threatened suicide, and all you had to go on was she's somewhere in the 14,000 acres of Lumber River State Park. So immediately, Robeson County deputies reach out to the park superintendent. Now, this is at 3:05 p.m. And park rangers throughout the park, they start searching. At 3:20 p.m., the police request a cell phone ping from Verizon Wireless to try to get a more accurate location as to where Micah is. They're trying to triangulate things, right? At 3:31, deputies arrive on the scene and they start assisting rangers in the search, along with requesting a drone to assist with that search. At 3:42 p.m., the police request another ping from Verizon Wireless. And I mean, law enforcement, they're taking this very seriously. They're moving really fast and doing everything they can do, considering they got a call. And look, whether you realize it or not, there are a lot of fake calls, suicide or otherwise, that police get that send them on wild goose chases, that assholes, they all think it's funny. But despite all that, they're doing everything they can here. At 3:50 p.m., the drone arrived, and around the same time, police are approached by a fisherman. Now, this fisherman states that he heard what sounded like crying coming from the bank near where he was fishing. He was in his boat. Then, about 3 minutes later, he hears a single gunshot. And when he went to check it out, he finds a bag with an ID in it, about 2 feet from the water's edge. So the police, they look in the bag, and in fact, it is the ID of Micah Miller. So the next thing they do, they say, "Show us where you found this." And while they are scrambling to get to where he found the belongings, a kayaker contacts Robeson County 911 and said he located a body in the water. Now, this is at 4:23 p.m. And here's what that call sounded like.
County 911, what's the address of your emergency?
There's nothing like this. I'm in Princeton State Park.
I'm sorry, your phone is breaking up very bad. I can't hear you.
Is that any better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, I'm in Princess Anne State Park, and I just made contact with a deputy. I didn't get his name. I think I just found a body in the water down there. If you know which deputy is here, if you can tell me back to where he just talked to the guy, white male, orange T-shirt, and a kayak, he'll know where I'm at.
Okay, hold on 1 second for me, okay?
Okay.
County 911, what's the address of your...
So deputies get down there to where Micah Miller's body was found, and they start their investigation. Now, Micah's body was found prone, which essentially means she was lying face down in the water. And she was submerged in the water beside tree limbs about 100 feet from where police found 2 spent shell casings and 1 live round. Then at 5:30, the chief of detectives arrives at that location. Now, around this time, they also locate Micah's vehicle in the parking lot of that state park. And inside, they find the following: a gun case for a Sig Sauer branded gun on the passenger seat, a box of ammunition in the center console, a receipt for the handgun purchase from a pawn shop, a receipt from a convenience store. And both of those receipts were dated the same day, April 27th of 2024, which is the day Micah allegedly committed suicide. At 7:11 p.m., the firearm that went to the case they found in the car, it's also located in the water, and the serial number on that recovered weapon did match the gun case found in Micah's car and the receipt. So the investigation really cranks up, really starts, and the police did an amazing job of tracing Micah's steps that day. That's the first thing they're going to do. Where has she been on this day prior to her death? And I'm going to tell you everything that she did that day, April 27th of 2024. And this was all caught on camera. At 10:13 a.m., Micah is seen on her Ring camera. She's leaving her residence in Myrtle Beach. At 11 a.m., Micah is seen arriving back at her home via her Ring camera. At 11:38 a.m., the Ring camera picks Micah leaving her residence again. At 12:12 p.m., Micah is seen on store surveillance walking into what's known as Dick's Pawn Shop in Myrtle Beach. At 12:13 p.m., she's seen inside the store buying a weapon. At 12:34 p.m., she's seen leaving Dick's Pawn Shop after purchasing a weapon and ammunition. At 1:06 p.m., Micah's black Honda Accord is seen traveling on Highway 501 in Conway, South Carolina. At 1:27 p.m., Micah's black Honda Accord is seen arriving at a grocery store. At 1:35 p.m., Micah is seen leaving that store after buying a drink and gas. And you can actually, they have video of all this. I'm going to post it for the celebrity members on Patreon, but you can see her pumping up her gas and all those sorts of things. Then at 2:54 p.m. that day, that's when she made that 911 suicide call. Now, in all of those sightings, which were all on camera, as I've stated, Micah was alone. She was seen buying the gun the police found in the water. They found the case and the box of ammo in her car that was from the same gun she allegedly killed herself with. They had a 911 call from Micah herself saying, "I am going to kill myself." Seems pretty open and shut, right? What? With a history between her and J.P. Miller, the police, they're not taking any chances, and they're going to start investigating J.P. and his movements while awaiting the coroner's report and the medical examiner's report. More on that later, but it didn't take long for the horrible news to make its way back to South Carolina and Myrtle Beach. And the next day, on April 28th, J.P. Miller announced to his church the sad news. And y'all, this created quite a bit of speculation. Due to what was seemingly his lack of emotion, here's what it sounded like.
We're not going to do an altar call today. Instead, I'm going to have you stand up and I'm going to make an announcement. And after the announcement, I'm going to ask that you leave church quietly and don't talk about the announcement here in the building, please, if you can. So y'all can stand to your feet. Before I make the announcement, I also want to say that my request to you is that you will continue to come to church and serve and give for the next little bit. I don't want I'm taking a little bit of a break, and I don't want to have to worry about the church. My break may be a few days, a few weeks, I don't know. I got a call late last night. My wife has passed away. And it was self-induced, and it was up in North Carolina. And we're going to have a funeral for her next Sunday here at 3 p.m. And so it's all I can, I'm just kind of going on adrenaline right now. So y'all pray for me and my kids and everybody. And y'all knew that she wasn't well mentally, and that she needed her medicine that was hard to get to her. And so I'm sure there'll be more details to come, but just keep our family in your prayers. And I'm going to let Pastor Randall, my bishop, he can pray. I give him a microphone, he'll pray out. And if you have anything you want to share as well, I appreciate it.
So what do you think? Also on that day, April 28th, Micah's sister, Sierra, she posted on Facebook and said, quote, "Don't listen to the false stories being told about her." And of course, she's talking about Micah. That same day, a friend of the 30-year-old said she spoke to Mica Miller multiple times the week she died. And her final text to her on the Friday night before her death was not a woman about to die, but a woman making plans to live. And all of this is fueling a ton of speculation around J.P. Miller. Then on April 30th, just 3 days after Micah's death, a complaint is phoned into police, and I'm going to read it directly from the police report. It simply said, complainant stated that his wife passed away and is trying to get belongings out of the apartment, meaning Micah's apartment, but the leasing manager will not let him in due to, quote, her not liking him, unquote. Wants an officer on standby while he gets some belongings out of the apartment. So shout out to the apartment manager there, who apparently gave J.P. Miller a little bit of a hard time and wouldn't let him into the apartment. And my first thought when I read that was, man, 3 days after her death, he sure was in a hurry to take possession of Micah's things, in my opinion. Seemed kind of strange. Now, it didn't take long before the talk started circulating in Myrtle Beach. And as a matter of fact, just 3 days later, on March 1st, leaders at Solid Rock Church, they file a police report with concerns about an influx of harassing messages in the wake of Micah's death, especially as it relates to what they called TikTok sleuths. And it was everywhere at that time. And you couldn't open TikTok without seeing, someone trying to break down this case. So on May 2nd of 2024, J.P. Miller, he holds a church staff meeting where someone, unbeknownst to him, was recording from a cell phone. And they leak that recording, and I have a copy of it. So listen to this.
Psychology episodes over the past 3 months. I've several other notebooks. We've been married for 7 years. He's amazing. He's telling her living. 3 days after we got married, she got an augmentation, and when she came out of the anesthesia, she was speaking different languages than she thought she was. And so I didn't know what to do. We just got married, so I took her to the doctor, and they said that the anesthesia somehow took something that was in the blood. They called it schizophrenia and bipolar 2. And they said it tapped into something that was already there because her body was under duress or something. So they put her on some medicine, and it didn't really work. So a few months later, she was back in the mental institute. They tried some other medicine, that didn't work. So a few months later, she was back. They finally got her on lithium. Over the years, our life and marriage has been perfect when she's on lithium. When she comes off of it, she can come off of it because her family would sometimes tell her that it makes her gain weight or it makes her slow or something. And so she'd come off of it and things would happen, like she'd think the dog was baby Jesus, or she would forget my name. When she went to the hospital in 2022, that episode, she didn't know we were married. So she actually at church proposed to me after we were already married for 6 years. And a few months ago, she sent her family a text that I found on her phone saying that I've been off my lithium for a month and I feel great. And and then told her, yeah, you don't need it, you're fine without it. And so she had another episode. In that episode, she I have all the records for that episode. She thought that artificial intelligence was after her. According to her ex, she thought that I was going to lock her up somewhere or then do things to her mind. And so she left, and her doctor, her mental health doctor, said that she was bipolar, schizophrenic, stopped taking her medicine, having hallucinations, delusions. So her doctor called the sheriff's office to figure out. They called me. What they did, this was February the 4th or 5th. I called her family to say, can you come help me? Maybe give her a hug or kiss or something. And they text her and said, the sheriff's after you, you need to run. So she ran off through South Carolina. She ended up back in Myrtle Beach the next day. And they picked her over. They took her to the hospital down by our house, which I was told by the police that that's the worst one to go to. And I didn't know. She had been to the other one's White House in Florence. And there they said that she found acute psychosis, bipolar disorder, episode, manic, with psychotic features, and very severe. They also said that she was cannabis dependent, which she's never ever even looked at cannabis her whole entire life, so she was obviously telling everything that they weren't true. Anyway, so out of all the places she's been, that's the one place that never put on lithium. So when she got out, we thought she was having people coming after her who were still there. And so she left me thinking that I was after her. And she did, over the next 2 weeks, 2 months, very, very psychotic things that she would have never, ever in her life done with lithium, ever. She tried to get it to 8 different people over the past 2 months. She even emailed the Secretary of State asking for I text over 48 different people that my wife was having a psychotic episode and that she needs her lithium, and not a single person. Some tried, but my wife's very, very strong, very strong. And so she says she's not going to do something. You don't really say anything back to her. I text all of her family numerous times. I sent them the doctor's reports. I sent them voice messages from her doctor saying she needs it right away. And nobody believed me. Everybody thought that I was just making it up. I saw her a few weeks ago. She came to the house. We sat for about 4 hours. And I spent all 4 hours trying to trick her into taking her medicine. She wouldn't do it. I have that whole 4 hours on recording. A few months ago, she actually stood up and gave her testimony where she tried to perform with her temple. I have that on recording, the video of that. I've gone through this several times with her. We just keep it quiet and let it pass through. You can see what happens when the public does get something. I took her to probate 3 weeks ago. No one was doing anything, so I took her to court. And they deemed her mentally ill and in need of medication, but not a danger to herself or others, so you cannot force her to the hospital. I did everything I could possibly do to try to get her help, and so I got a call Saturday night, and I didn't think it was real. Thought it was a fake call. So I'm trying to use another phone to call people to see if it's real and all that. They said it was real. I got to see her body the next day. I got to keep it for 4 times already since. And they said that she got ready for work Saturday morning. Her work closed. They said she went where I even took from her CWP so she could not do this. And I could text the family, please don't give her. She was trying to get more, but she went to the beach. I don't know where yet. They said she drove to Lumberton, which she's never been to in her life. She parked her car at a state park and she walked an hour into the woods. She went down by lake and she called the police. She told the police about to find my location for my family and have my body. Which they had said like no, or let's talk about it or something, but they said yes. And she did what she did, and a kayaker found the body. And I just found out a few hours ago from somebody I talked to that Micah told them 3 years ago that she was researching if she ever did this, it would be in Lumberton at the state park. I mean, though she knew the city Lumberton existed. People are saying a bunch of horrible things. The main culprit of the horrible things is Ken Young, who actually used to work here. Ken and Alicia for a very, very short time. Kim actually did beat his wife and go to jail, and our church actually bailed him out and taken him to go to counseling, and they left. That's the last time we ever saw them. And he's the one that's doing this whole thing about abuse. Mike has never once been abused for higher life by me. Never, ever, not even for a second. She was such a strong woman. If you dare come near her, you'd be the one that could be on the ground. That was never the case. It's all part of the hallucinations and illusions. And even the virus that lives on behind closed doors, except for the people there. I think she was an amazing woman. If she was up there with people, she was absolutely perfect. I mean, perfect in every way. And, we all, there's nothing wrong with mental illness. Some people have diabetes, some people have, some whatever, heart disease. It's just something you have to take care of properly. And for the most part, she did. Once a year, and she always around Christmas, so you didn't know what happened. So that's where I'm at. I'm really sorry. Very sorry that we'll cross into it. Very, very sorry. I believe it'll blow over in a few weeks, especially after the death certificate if it shows everything. But once the police reports, I haven't even had a chance to prepare for the funeral because I'm dealing with this every single day. My kids are scared that I'm getting death threats. I can't even see my children. I have a school and parents are upset. It's just a big mess. Micah would not have wanted that. She was a very peaceful woman, and she could not stand. She could not stand when people got on social media and did things like that. So, I'll open up the floor for questions. If you have any questions, I'd love to be very transparent and honest with you anyway. I'll see you know what's going on. Don't be afraid. You can ask me anything. You can ask me anything. I had a private eye on her a few months ago, so I had to tell her at some point she was going to try to get her weapon. So I had they put a tracker. They were telling me she got near any of the main weapons places here in town. But she didn't. They took the tracker off a few weeks ago. She had seen right there. It was all Friday. I was told by some friends that she would have been Friday night since she was feeling a little bit weird. But this type of thing, it's not a circumstantial thing. So if you had seen her, you couldn't stop it. If you told her it wouldn't stop, you gave her $1 million. It's not circumstantial. It's a mental thing. On other times when she tried to do it, and that's different things. She would wake up in the morning and just say, "I feel like I'm supposed to die." I said, "No, you're not supposed to die like this." I said, "Is anything wrong? You need anything?" I said, "Do you want me to get you something?" Right? For some reason, my brain's telling me I'm supposed to die. I take her to walk on mental health, and you do what they did, and she'd be fine. You got to do it over again. It's not how often.
So JP, as you can tell in that clip, he's sticking to this whole mental health aspect as it relates to Micah. In the same day, JP gives a verbal interview with ABC 15 in South Carolina, saying, quote, "She was probably the greatest wife anyone could ever ask for. She was incredibly affirming. We spent every night together for hours just talking and talking." He went on to say, "So over the years since we've been married, some people struggle with high blood pressure. Some people struggle with diabetes. Some people struggle with mental health. And whenever she stayed on her lithium, things were great. She'd come off sometimes and things would get a little unusual. But per her doctors, they told her even recently that she was homicidal and suicidal. And just as high as someone can go up, they can go just as low." And so the highs, you can see those on film, and all the lows were a lot of times behind closed doors. And she had struggled with suicide before, and each time we helped her through it and took her to her doctor, and we got through it, and everything was fine. She even gave a few testimonies here at church we have on video of times where she had battled suicide. But God took care of her and got her through it. And so this past time, it's still a shock. It's an incredible shock. And those were those early statements that J.P. Miller would give. And then her obituary was released, and I'm going to read that for you. It says Micah Miller, 30, of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, passed away on Saturday, April 27th of 2024. She was born March 7th, 1994 in Wichita, Kansas, a daughter of Michael Francis and Angelita Ramirez. She is survived by her husband, Pastor John Paul Miller of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, stepchildren Logan, Zachary, Eli, Asher, and Salah, and one brother, Nate Francis, and his wife, Victoria. 4 sisters, Anna Francis, Sierra Brown and her husband, Matt, Abby Francis, and Destiny Barantos and her husband, Nicholas. Micah was energetic, affirming, adventurous, faithful, loving, giving, forgiving, talented, joyous, creative, assertive, bold, determined, authoritative, passionate, hardworking, a risk taker, and so much more. She and JP have been friends since 2009, married in 2017, and spent almost every single day and night together. Micah loved her little dog, Loki. She loved doing outdoor activities like waterfall rappelling, hiking, skydiving, running, and going to the beach. Micah would take on any challenge, even if it was being a vegan for an entire year. Micah was a great stepmother and an amazing wife and helpmate. She helped Pastor JP with the church in every way. Micah was the worship leader, graphics designer, youth leader, women's ministry leader, and pastor's assistant, and she did all of this with the utmost integrity and faithfulness. Micah made the greatest of efforts to always be the best wife she could be. She truly served Jesus and her husband with all her heart. She would praise her husband after every church service, telling him he was the best preacher in the world, even if it wasn't true. She also told him he was the funniest preacher in the world, even though that wasn't true either. Micah loved her family so much. She looked forward to every text from her father or brother. She sought every opportunity to pour into her sisters. There were thousands of nights she would pray out loud for God to always bless and take care of her family. They were constantly on her mind. Micah wanted more than anything for each member of her family to serve Jesus continually. Micah loved her ice bath, nice car, sauna, house, etc. But more than anything on earth, her desire was to see people come to Jesus. And then it goes into a celebration of life and list all of that. The family has requested that memorial donations be made to, and it gives a website to sponsor a child in Africa. Now, it was on May 5th that a dual memorial for Mica Miller took place, one with a service that was led by her husband, John Paul Miller, and another organized by friends and family. Outside the venue of the church service, a group of demonstrators gathered, wearing purple shirts with messages advocating for domestic violence awareness and chanting justice for Micah. So it's already out there that her and JP had their issues. Then on Tuesday, May 7th of 2024, police released the following statement to the media. A death investigation that has tugged on the hearts of people across the nation has been ruled a suicide. This decision was based on surveillance footage, interviews, physical evidence, and the examination of the North Carolina Medical Examiner's Office. On Saturday, April 27th, 2024, at approximately 2:54 p.m., Robinson County 911 Communications Center received a call from a female. The caller asked the dispatcher if her phone could be located because she was going to kill herself and wanted her family to be able to find her body. During the conversation with the dispatcher, the caller hung up the phone, and the dispatcher was unable to contact the caller. The dispatcher was able to find the location of the caller and dispatch a deputy to that location. The deputies contacted the Lumber River State Park superintendent upon their arrival at the state park in North Carolina. The deputies and state park rangers conducted a search of the area for the victim. The search was aided by the Robinson County Sheriff's Office drone. During the investigation, a black Honda Accord with South Carolina plates was located in the parking lot of the state park. The investigators confirmed the vehicle belonged to Mica Miller, 30, of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Investigators located a gun case in the passenger seat of the vehicle and a box of ammunition in the center console of the vehicle. Investigators found a receipt for the handgun from the pawn shop that she went to and a receipt from a convenience store in the vehicle, and both of those receipts were dated the same day of Miller's death, April 27th of 2024. During the search of the park for the 911 caller, investigators were approached by an individual who had found a bag near the water edge with identification belonging to Miller. The individual stated he heard someone crying and a gunshot while he was fishing. Law enforcement continued the search, and E911 received a call from an individual who stated that a body was located in the water. Law enforcement responded to the location and contacted the North Carolina Medical Examiner's office upon locating the deceased. The victim was identified as Micah Miller. A 6-hour 9mm handgun was located in the water at the crime scene during the search of the area, and the serial number on the weapon matched the gun box that was found in Miller's Honda Accord. During the investigation, Miller's phone and other personal belongings were located. A search of Miller's phone revealed that she conducted a Google search for national parks near me, and the Lumber River State Park location was provided. The investigation also revealed that Miller and her estranged husband, John Paul Miller, had been separated and were involved in the legal system. This information led investigators to confirming the whereabouts of Miller and a female he is allegedly romantically involved with. Investigators were able to confirm that both individuals were not in North Carolina on the night before or the day of Miller's death. Investigators learned through interviews that John Paul Miller was at an athletic event in Charleston on the day of Micah Miller's death. John Miller's vehicle was observed traveling at 2:22 p.m. on April 27th of 2024. The investigation confirmed that John Miller was accompanied while traveling to and from an event in Charleston, South Carolina. On Tuesday, May 7th of 2024, Sheriff Wilkins, investigators, and the medical examiner met with the parents and immediate family members of Micah Miller. John Paul Miller was given the opportunity to attend a separate meeting, and Miller indicated through his attorney that he would not come to North Carolina to meet with investigators. Investigators conducted several interviews and developed a timeline in relation to Miller's death on April 27th of 2024. And I went through the timeline already with you of the day leading up to Micah's death, so I won't go over that. It goes on to say, first, let me say on behalf of the Robinson County Sheriff's Office that our sincere condolences are being sent to the family and friends of Micah Miller, that from Sheriff Wilkins. This incident has garnered much attention from across the Carolinas and beyond, and I want to assure everyone that this is a very methodical investigation, and it was conducted by our criminal investigations team and crime scene investigative team. Unfortunately, rumors and conspiracy theories were spreading quickly and assumptions were being made. However, in the end, we must make our decisions based on facts and evidence that has been gathered. While I know it's not what many people wanted to hear, the evidence is quite clear and quite compelling, and we are saddened as anyone that this has occurred. There are many factors that we have reviewed that occurred over an extended period of time that are probably related to the reason for this investigation. But in the end, sadly, a tragic decision was made by Micah that ended her life. And that was the statement from the investigating sheriff's office. Now, so I'm not going to cover this entire medical examiner's report, but I will mention what he said about Micah's previous attempts at suicide and her mental diagnosis. So here's how that read. Medical records documented decedent was hospitalized on November 29th of 2022 until December 5th of 2022 on suicidal precautions for bipolar disorder, recurrent manic episodes, and dependent personality disorder. Medical records stated 2 prior mental health hospitalizations and a previous suicide attempt with a firearm. Records on 2/7 of 24 also stated 8 gummy consumption and increased paranoia with bizarre behavior. Decedent family did confirm her previous suicide attempt by firearm. And that was, I guess you could say, the summation from the medical examiner. Okay, so as referenced by the police investigators, they determined that John Paul was traveling to Charleston for a sporting event on April 26, which was the day before Micah died. Now, this was proven through eyewitnesses and license plate readers, according to police. And detectives did confirm that he stayed overnight in the Charleston area. Now, John Paul Miller was traveling from Charleston back to Myrtle Beach on April 27th, which they've actually got pictures through license plate readers showing that at like 2:22 p.m., which was during the time Micah Miller was placing that suicide call, he was not anywhere near where she was. And he was with other people, and we'll get into who he was with in a subsequent episode. And look, it was around this time that a lot of information was coming out, especially as it relates to the mental abuse that JP was doling out on Micah, in my opinion. And one of the things that came out concerns those razor blades. Remember in the first episode when I told you about Micah calling 911 saying someone was slashing her tires? She had some kind of device on there that you could get from Amazon. Well, some really shocking information that relates to that came out regarding a private investigator that was following Micah and actually caught her in the act, so to speak, with a young man who was an employee at JP Miller's church. He was of age, but he was younger. Now, of course, JP discovers this and he has a conversation with this young employee of his by the name of DJ Wilson. And here's the recording of what happened when Micah spots that PI and he approaches her.
Walk away.
I'll show you the pictures.
Do you want to go to jail?
They'll be on Facebook in a few hours.
Alrighty, you'll be in jail in a few hours.
Then JP Miller, he calls DJ Wilson, that employee who was kissing Micah. And here is the actual recorded phone call.
Yeah, where did you touch her?
Just like nowhere below reproach. That's a promise.
Well, the person that saw and got the picture said that you touched her chest.
I didn't. We kissed, so maybe like her face, neck, but I promise you that nothing below the neck, chest.
And she touched you where?
Just the same place, like my face and like my chest.
My guy said there was more than that.
More than what?
More than what you're telling me.
Well, I'm telling you, if you have the videos and the pictures, you can fact check it.
He'll have them to me by morning time. But he told me there was more than that.
Well, that is exactly what happened. There was nothing more than kissing. Nothing more. I promise you that. And then you'll see then.
He said that both of y'all touched each other inappropriately.
No.
And you know this is adultery, right? This is straight up adultery.
I do, and I'm repenting to you.
Because we're not legally separated. Even if we were legally separated, it's still adultery.
And I am incredibly, incredibly sorry. And I honestly do not expect
Yeah, why do you think she called you? Like, do you not
see you talk about this discernment. You literally have zero discernment. But do you not see that a married woman called you and asked to meet you at the beach?
I do. That was incredibly.
I thought you had discernment. You said you had discernment better than a 70-year-old man.
I was saying better than some 70-year-old men. And, I'm not on the phone to argue with you. I'm repenting to you. I honestly don't know what else to tell you other than to ask for your forgiveness. And honestly, I don't even expect that from you.
No, I forgive you. No, I forgive you.
And, I am sick to my stomach just from all of it, the whole thing.
Micah did the same exact thing to me 10 years ago. Exact same thing. We met at the same place.
Really? Yeah, and it was just incredibly stupid on my part. And I take all the responsibility.
Is she saying she wants to date you or marry you or anything like that?
No, I mean, it was just really basic conversation. And honestly, she didn't even really mention you or anything. It was all just like normal conversations. She talked about like the Valorous Church and how she was going there and liked it and stuff.
And you kissed her or she kissed you?
It was really like a mutual thing.
Y'all were holding hands?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you didn't answer that earlier when I said how y'all were touching. You never said y'all were holding hands.
You're right, but yeah, you asked. Yeah, you're right.
Y'all held hands for a long time.
I went definitely not the whole time, but an extensive period, definitely longer than we kissed.
I just made love to her 4 weeks ago, and she told me I was the best husband in the world. And everything I've been through with her, and just like that, you're going to take that from me? Like, just like that, you're going to ruin... She's never slept with anybody other than her first husband. I'm the only person she's ever kissed up until now. So if she comes back in 3 months or 6 months, what's that going to feel like?
I'm so sorry.
Or a year? And I warned you. I warned you.
You did. You're right, you did.
And you got mad at me when I warned you. You got all defensive. And your mom got upset and sent me a really, really mean text. Because I'm trying to save your butt from the same thing that I fell for.
Yeah.
Don't come on the property. Don't have anything to do with anything at Solid Rock until I look at the videos and see if you're telling me the exact truth.
Wow. Talk about being a fly on the wall during all of this. So this PI caught Micah and the church employee together the same day that Micah's tires were slashed. Coincidence? I think not. But that's just my opinion. So even though this kid was, in fact, telling J.P. Miller the, quote, exact truth, he did get fired from J.P. Miller's church. And J.P. Miller even talked about it during church. Here's that clip.
I had somebody on my staff, a young person that I had to let go. I said, listen, I don't want you doing this anymore. This is something that I don't think is right. I want you to stop. And they looked at me and they said this, well, God's my ultimate authority. I said, what did you just say to me? They said, well, if God tells me I can do it, then I can do it. I said, you work for me. They said, God's my, I said, you know what? Get God to sign your paycheck for you because you're fired.
And this is where we are going to end this one for today. But trust me, it gets a lot crazier as this story goes along. Thank you to all the celebrity members on Patreon that support what we do here at Exposed Scandalous Files of the Elite. If you want to get involved, get some pretty awesome benefits, including commercial-free early releases, quarterly gifts, files of everything we discuss. Check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/exposed podcast files. Without these people, this podcast would not exist. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And until next time, for Exposed Scandalous Files of the Elite, I'm your host, Jim Chapman. Much love.